We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Some of it you gon' like, some of it you ain't. Tired of hearing fools complaining in barber chairs and beauty shops. You must handle the truth.
This is Truf Bros TV.
Replacement, and I'll do anything to make sure.
That could have contributed to something like this.
But she wants to love this man under conditions.
That's what your bitch ass get. Hoe ass nigga. I knew you been stealing my shit. Broke ass nigga. Yeah. Broke ass nigga. That's what your bitch ass get. And the law's on the way.
Fuck shit on my son.
Dirty ass.
If you're not watching the Truf Brothers,
Then the truth ain't king.
Truf Brothers TV. Hello, everybody. Welcome to an explosive edition of Truf Brothers. I'm Ray, and Devon has to unmute himself.
There we go.
There we go, brother.
All right, and I'm Devon.
Yeah, we are the Truf Brothers, and welcome to the show, everybody. Let's get our customary greetings in and salutations as everybody finds a seat and gets ready for a spectacular show. In the meantime, how you doing, Kim? And how you doing, brother? What's good?
I'm good. Kim, what's going on? Man, I'm straight. Just out here trying to do the best I can, live this decent life that we working on. Looks like somebody's running the board for us. Chris, what's good out here, man? Sending out a few more invites to everybody that's trying to get into the show today. I see some people are hitting me up trying to get the link. Like, where's the link? Where's the link? So I'm getting it out. So everybody, remain calm. The link is headed out. So there you go. Y'all all could just go on to the Truf Brothers TV on Facebook.
You really can. You really can.
There you go. And then it's all good. But I understand. Sometimes it's not that easy to do. But but other than that, man, life's been good, man. Can't complain at all.
All right, good. Good. I have no complaints, man. Everything is just moving along rather swimmingly. I really have no complaints. Broke the vet out 2 weeks ago, gave it a good leg stretch, and she's happy to be woken up for the summer and ready to get that hot Corvette summer in. I don't know about a hot girl summer. I have hot Corvette summers. Hey, Sydney.
What's going on, Sydney? Yeah, definitely. But what's that? What'd you say?
Nothing. That was just death. That's all. I was choking.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, you looking mighty out of the whole thing right now, man. You good?
What you trying to say? I look like I'm about to die?
No, I ain't saying you look like you about to die. I'm just saying you look like, man, this day just kicked my ass. So
do I? Well, no, I don't feel that way at all, man. My days have been rather great. I have no complaint. Been hyped and ready to do this show.
Yeah, man. And again, thank you to everybody, man, that keep tuning in to the show, man. We really appreciate that. Y'all are helping us grow tremendously. We got some big things coming up in the summer. Hopefully, we got some people who are watching us that we really are trying to let them know what we really can do just for bigger and better things that we're trying to be on. So definitely want everybody to, man, flood. If y'all get the chance or whatever, man, come in there, join in the conversation, because this will be a very, I think this conversation we're going to have tonight is going to, I think this conversation tonight is going to spark some trauma, maybe, to some people. It may bring up some bad images, bad memories, and things like that. Welcome to everybody's stories. If you want to share them, you can. If you want to, just get things off your chest, we want to welcome that too, because some things have come up, and I wanted to get pick some people's brain on it and get some knowledge about certain things. So yeah, we're going to dive into that as well, man.
Good. And because this is a very delicate topic, and we don't want it to be all super testosterone based. We brought in our very special guest, our director of media affairs, Pepper Potts. We need that female perspective to make sure that we stay on the up and up on this thing. So how you doing, Pep?
Is she muted?
She's muted. You gotta unmute yourself, honey.
Yeah, we can't hear you today. Yeah, you definitely muted.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah, she fumbles around. Pretty fingers, though. Say something. Can you hear us?
I don't think she can hear us, man.
She can't hear us.
All righty. Well, gotta get those.
It's not me, honey. It's you. I'm muting you and unmuting you. So it's not our mics here. It's you there. So that's okay. While she figures out her technical difficulties, man. I
will say, have her go out and come back in.
Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah.
And stop.
Yeah. Now. All right, so everybody that's out there in Truf Brotherland, man, we really want to get into this because I see that everybody is actually coming in tonight, and we appreciate that too. While Pep is getting everything together for her, I wanted to jump into a topic. Hey, Tony, I wanted to go into this topic really quickly while we still have the time.
Yes.
I did see that. I was watching a lot of things going on in the past week, and most of it had to do kind of with the Johnny Depp thing. But then I was watching another show some while back, and I was listening to some people just give out some crazy stories about domestic abuse. Let's see if we got it back. Pep?
Yo, I can hear
you. Right. Look at the magic of just refreshing.
Man, the refresh worked real good. I was like, what happened? Y'all was kidding me.
Well, welcome. Devon has given a synopsis on how we came to handle this particular topic right here.
Okay.
So yeah, basically, I was listening to a couple shows a while back, and I was watching, hearing women and some guys just basically give stories about different forms of abuse that they've dealt with in situations. And I was thinking to myself, why did they stay in those situations? Like, was it because of, and I never got a chance to ask these people. So I said, who better to ask the people than our great listeners out there in Truf Brotherland who could have possibly experienced some things like this. And maybe we can get a better idea, because a lot of times I think I know things, but it's best to hear it for confirmation. Sure. And the more conversation we have about it, I think we can get more understanding about it, and maybe even help some people in the process. Before we do that, if anybody notices in our intro, or not our intro, in our description for the show, there was an abuse line, an abuse text line. For anybody who may know somebody who's dealing with that, or may possibly be dealing with it themselves, anonymously, you can send that number, and you can also text that hotline. So for anybody who's dealing with that, or feel like they know somebody who's possibly dealing with it, go ahead and reach out for that number. We'll try to post it inside of our group again today, so people will know that that's an outlet that they're able to have.
For sure. And this is one where, family, we definitely want to have a conversation with you guys, and then it's a conversation that the broader audience can have after this show airs, and people pick it up and continue on with the conversation, hopefully after this thing goes into the archives. But this is one where, it's a particular mindset and point of view that comes into these situations where we're in any type of a unbalanced or unhealthy relationship. We tend to stay in them for a while. We tend to try to do what we want to do to try to make it work, because one, we ain't no quitter. Two, we care about the person, and you try to keep that mantra for better or for worse in the back of your mind, because you want to try to stick with somebody you care about through thick and thin. And then it just reaches a point where you have to realize, okay, yeah, this ain't going nowhere, and I'm going to have to get out of it for my own sake. For my own safety, or my own health sake or my own mentality sake, the safety of my mentality, if not my physical person, my mentality that I want to get out of this. Let me go ahead and get out of this and take care of me, because trying to save a drowning person who's fighting you will take you down with them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think what it is the conversation is shifting due to the fact that you see abuse was mainly seen as a woman's issue, right? Being a victim of abuse was historically seen as a woman's issue. And now with people's sexual orientations changing, or with people just speaking out, we see that that is a broader issue. And it is something like Devon was mentioning earlier with the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial, that we see that does affect the patriarchal side of the society as well. I think most men historically haven't talked about being victims of abuse because of social things that may have happened, such as ridicule, not being taken seriously, toxic masculinity, where they have probably been perceived to as being weak, when that's not the case at all.
Yeah, I think that I do agree with the fact that when it does involve men and men reporting forms of abuse, we'll just stick with physical right now. Adult physical abuse of men are being attacked by females. I think that they look at that concept and saying as a man being weak, because men don't normally call for help when they're getting abused. They don't usually reach out and say, I'm calling the police or I'm doing this. I mean, I've seen it done where it's like guys will just take it in and be like, nah, man, I ain't calling no beats. I can handle it. And it's one of them things where you gotta, I think you have to look at it in the long term, because I think the guys don't do it because of the idea of how would I appear to the people who's going to see me calling somebody else, or even the police who show up at my door, who gonna look at me and be like, nigga, you called for that little person? Like, stop, man.
So here's the first question I want to throw out to our Truf family then, out here in Truf world. Is it okay for a male to call the authorities in the case of physical abuse?
I think anyone being physically abused, if they need assistance with removing themselves from the situation, should definitely be reaching out to the authorities so that they could mediate that situation. I think, like you said, one of the cases of men not doing it is, one, most resources to remove men from those situations, there are none. If that was on the other, or they're not many. They're not many. So if a female is being in that type of situation, they have emergency housing where they will place her in. When the male is in that situation, it is a small amount of places where that man can seek shelter, or where he can get away from that situation. And I think the allocation of most of the funding does go towards helping women.
Yes, it does. No, and this is pretty much a new open concept that people are just trying to wrap their heads around. And I'm pretty old, so I want to ask you a question, Devon.
What's up?
You and your significant other gets into an altercation.
Mm-hmm.
You call the police, right? And the police show up and they want to take you to a shelter. Do you go?
That's a tough conversation for me, because there's a lot of factors into that. Because
it is.
It's one of them things where it's like, if that's my house, I'm not leaving. She can go. If that's our house, I would hope they take her to remove her from the house altogether.
Right, but she's the one being abusive. You called because she's hitting you.
Right, and that's what I mean. Like, she's abusive. Usually, if the two couples live together and the man was the abuser, they would take the man out the house anyway. Like, hey man, you got.
Right, but he's going to jail. Yes, he's going. There's no shelter for him. He's going to county.
I would assume the same thing would happen for her. Like, if she's abusing me, it's still abuse. Take her to jail. So therefore, that's what like. But to get it, I do understand what you're saying. For some cases where it's like the man is usually like, yo, man, I can't lock her up. That's boo bae. But see, for me, it's one of the things where it's like I have to know where I'm going with this, because if it's something I know I'm not bouncing back from and it's over, then yeah, she can go. If it's something like we just need cooler heads to prevail, I don't know if I would go to a shelter or if I would just try to get out for the night, go to my boy crib, go to a hotel, something like that,
For sure.
and then come back the next day.
Yes, for
But
sure.
I don't
You
know
have
if I would
options.
do a shelter.
Yes, you have options for that. And granted, most likely that's what would get exercised. But I'm asking in terms of the shelter for a specific reason. As a man, could you see yourself going to a shelter?
Honestly, no. I could.
I agree. There's no way on God's green earth I'm going to a shelter.
But
Now,
then
granted,
it's like,
yes, if we're arguing, and yes, even if she was acting a complete and utter fool, I don't know about sending her to jail. It would have to get really, really bad, like pulled a knife and cut me or something. Because if it was just your standard argument, yeah, I'm gonna say, hey, either she gotta go or I gotta go. I'll go get a room, like you say. I'll go call my boys. I'll go do that to let things calm down. But I'm not going to a shelter. And I'm saying that because we've been encouraged now to call the police if physical stuff occurs against us, and that goes against my programming big time. I can't see myself calling the police on my girl.
So what you're talking about is learned behavior. Like
yes.
You've been brought up, and that's a learned behavior. And emergency housing, I think there are different socioeconomical factors that play into that. What if you and your girl lived in another state where she's there with majority of her family and you moved across the country for her and you don't have any other resources, or your money may be tied up, or there may be children involved? Like, so in those cases, because we have seen times, and I'm not pitting the sexes against each other, but if it was the situation with a woman and children were involved and she was in another state with her guy and he made majority of the money, they're going to put her in emergency housing with those children and have resources to help assist her with getting her own. Now, if that situation is reversed and you have the man being abused in that factor, what resources are there to help him? And
I mean, I agree with that there's not many resources, and like we said, there is I believe with the way the system is set up altogether, it's always been a double standard. It's always been women put against men. You know, I just think that.
Yeah, but when it comes to this topic, men tend to, especially back in the day, men had more of a free hand to get more physical than the female did.
And that doesn't necessarily justify it. I mean,
I'm not justifying it. I'm just talking about the way that the assistance has come about has been the way that the conditions were in America. And in America, men had free hands to get heavy-handed.
Right.
And they controlled the finances.
Exactly.
They were controlling the finances as well.
But it's to a point now where even with that system, like we were saying, if the times of old are not of the present. So the times when they started adjusting those rules and fixing it so that there would be a little more help, there's been more assistance towards the help than there is to cause more balance with it. If like we were saying,
there's no such thing as the times of old is not the times of now. The situation is developed due to the times of old. We're just now in a dichotomy where people are recognizing that men can be victims of abuse. Therefore, we're just now wrapping our heads around the fact that maybe we do need shelter for men. Maybe men do need counseling after they've been abused. None of this stuff was ever thought to be offered before until
I think in the early
very
2000s,
recently.
I think around 2020, maybe about 20 years ago, it was starting to become a thing. So that's
2000, no.
I would say
2000,
so.
you instant if a woman, if a call came in of domestic abuse, 9 times out of 10, you were going to jail no matter what happened, especially 20 years ago. That was their default position to get everybody to their neutral corners. They just take you to county.
And historically, I think what we've seen is that those programs and resources, when they were set up systematically, were they set up for people of color? Those systems that were put in place were always put in place in assistance to help white women. You know what I'm saying? To make sure that they were able to get out of those houses, get into new houses. They have places that they'll help them get apartments, help them with money to put a down payment. You don't see those programs for men. And then when you start taking heterosexuality out of it, and you're talking about people who are in same-sex relationships, that skews it even more.
But that's I guess my point that I was trying to make, because even if the system initially was set up to help white women, then I'm assuming that black women, because at a certain point black women took advantage of it as well. So that's what I'm saying. Like initially, yeah, it could have been set up to help white women because they were like, hey, they were the ones getting, because again, we didn't have as much of a dichotomy as far as when it came to domestic abuse like they did in like the Ralph Crandon or Ricardo days like that.
No. Yeah, she's not saying that in the straight up segregationalist mindset. She's saying that as in white women and feminists led the charge for a lot of these programs to come about. But the minute they came about, all women could access them. So it wasn't like these options came about and black women couldn't access them. But when it comes to this type of stuff, when it comes to child support, white women led the charges on a lot of that stuff.
That doesn't mean that, okay, we know that they led the charge, but that doesn't mean that we get that it was happening across all borders though, right? Like there were black men who were getting heavy-handed just like there were white men getting heavy-handed. So that's what I was saying, that black women took advantage of the same thing. Now we know who started it, or well, we can identify who started it. I don't think that plays as much as a part as to who acts, as long as everybody had access to it. Now, my question, I guess, would be that though black women and everybody have access to it, does it mean that well, let me rephrase that question. When everybody did have access to it, meaning that the black women had access to it, does it make a difference if the white women actually did lead the charge?
No, we were only clarifying that because you were starting to skew thinking that black women didn't have access to this when it first came about.
No, I never said that. I said that they had access to it too. That's what my whole point was. If they didn't, it doesn't matter who led the charge. They had access to it too. I never said that they didn't.
I think what you're saying is, would we be seeing that these resources would be equally distributed? And I would think there would be inequalities in the distribution of these resources because, one, like we've been stating, it's never been set up for men to use these programs or for men to access these programs.
Exactly.
And I have friends that are police officers, and we've talked about this in situations, and there is no funding for that. They would usually take money and try to get that man a hotel room if those calls came in and the man was being abused, and maybe the woman was the primary person on that lease, and that man has to remove himself or vacate himself from the situation. Most of the time, they would try to get him to stay with another friend. But what if he don't got a friend? Then you have to try to get resources to get him a hotel. And we're not even including the fact that what if they may have children and he wants to remove his kids from that toxic situation?
I mean, that I can understand that. I can understand that dynamic as well. I just look at it as one of them things what we was talking about earlier, when it goes to the differences between what the, like you were just saying, what the men may have, what lack of resources the men have, and what is equated to women altogether. Because my whole thing is I didn't want to make it or have it come across like it was a race thing. I didn't.
Right. And it's not.
Right. It didn't.
Right. Because I mean, it to me, I believe that. Well, like I said, let me go back a little bit. When you are in a situation where you're getting abused, physically, emotionally, we'll talk physical right now because there are different forms of abuse, and we explained it in the description. When you're getting abused physically, and for anybody that's out there listening, I would love to get a different dynamic because I just didn't get it.
Yeah,
so
definitely, we want to hear you guys' comments too.
What made when the physical abuse got to a point where it was like too. Like we know there's little things, and I hate to say little things because that's a bad term to use right now. But we know there's little things like little shoves, little bumps, little pushes or whatever, little grabs, aggressive grabs. But when you know it was getting out of hand,
so when it's escalating,
when it's escalating, when it's now went from open hand to closed fist, like y'all are literally boxing in there. What made a person stay there? And that's what I was trying to get a understanding to anybody, because like I never got to a real like I'm finna square up, you finna square up, and we're finna box. I've never got to that.
Okay.
It was times where I've had to calm down. Like it was nothing that really was like we finna throw hands against each other. Now there's been a lot of verbal, I do this, I do that, and that's the wolf tickets that we pushing out there.
Right.
But the whole I'm balling my fists up, this is it, let me go ahead and stretch out and get my neck loose. It's never got to that point. But I've seen women who have done that, and they will give the whole spiel of sorry about that. They will give the whole spiel of I'm done with this, I can't take it no more, I can't do this no more, I'm sick of it. And then next thing you know, they're back on Facebook with the pictures, and she got glasses on. And I'm like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah, but that's the whole breakup to makeup mentality that most couples, especially young couples, have. So young couples have the most volatile emotions because young people haven't mastered their emotions, and they're passionate. So,
but the thing is, I get that. I could even give that a pass, and I'm gonna let you get to your point, Pep, real quick. But I'm looking at women late 30s, early 40s, and I'm like, why? It's like women in my age group, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like this, you should be past this point in your life. This should not be a thing to where it's okay to do this now. Like we shouldn't even be thinking like this. And that's where I have a problem, because I'm like, well, where's your mental? Where's your, and I don't want to say self-love, and I don't want to make anybody who's out here listening feel a particular way because maybe y'all are dealing with it or maybe you've been through it, and that's not what I'm trying to do. It's just I need an understanding, because I want to know, like when you're leaking blood from your face, how is it that you can look at that and say, I gotta come back to this tomorrow? And I'm not, like I said, I'm not judging anybody for their choice. It's just I'm a curious person by nature, and I just want to know, what will cause a person to want to stay. Like I get women saying they stay because they kids. I get women staying because they want to give their kids something they didn't have, as like mothers and fathers. I get, I love, certain things. Let me read Chris' comment real quick. Chris says in California, when the man leaves the home for any reason and don't return when children are involved, the court system sees them as abandonment. I've heard that. I've heard that in Mississippi too. Tony says fear. And if she can elaborate on that, I think I know, but if she can elaborate on that. Sydney says learned behaviors. I can understand that. I think, and
a part of that is you're supposed to be sticking into a relationship through thick and thin. There's a lot of things that would make people stay into that. Some people believe that this is how it's supposed to be, and that's why I hearkened it back to young people because it does start when you're young. You have to make a, especially as a man, you have to make a choice to say, I won't let nothing progress to this point because I'm not going through that dumb stuff. And I'm saying that because in my first marriage and when we were courting and we were young, we had ridiculous dumb fights, stupid fights over dumb stuff. And it would get out of hand sometimes. It never turned to blood in the face, but it did turn into those stupid young fights and slapping and punching and hitting on one another, acting a complete fool. But you have to, I believe you have to reach a point as a man. I would say as an adult, but women can answer that question for themselves. But as a man, I had to reach a point to where I said, yeah, I'm never going down that road again because I hated how that stuff used to make me feel. So I had to have the discipline enough to say, okay, that's it. No more conversation. This is over. And either I'm either gonna go to another room, I'm gonna shut the conversation down, or I'm gonna walk or drive away. In other words, I'm gonna de-escalate by just dismantling the conflict right then and there, or the argument, and walk away. Because when people get emotional, the slide is stupid.
So to chime in to piggyback and go back to what Devon was saying, so speaking to women, because women do network with other women. So I've heard these stories. So I do have an understanding on why some of them stay. Like you said, sometimes they stay for their children. Other times it's a learned behavior. They may have they grew up and saw their moms and their aunts and their grandmothers be in abusive relationships. And back in the day, you were told these messed up points of view that, oh, if he don't hit you, he ain't loving you.
I was going to say that. Yep.
You grow up with a skewed view of love. I recommend every Black person to check this author, Dr. Bell Hooks, out. She writes a book called All About Love, and she talks about the dysfunctional love that people grow up with because we don't know what true love is.
Let's read Tony's comment. The fear of a worse form of abuse like death, but they don't realize death will come if they stay. I understand that. Ashley says mental abuse come way before the physical, same as seduction. I could believe that. Tony says it's not just the physical abuse, it's the emotional and mental conditioning that has been done over time. I believe that too, because I mean, no, you don't say something out of pocket and a person just up a hand. It's like get your it's all this other stuff that comes way before that. I think for me, I believe a form of abuse that starts it is, I do believe a lack of self-control and discipline does play a huge part in that. For me, the reason I never felt the need, and this is just me, I never felt the need to have to really like put my boxing classes into play was because in my brain I always knew that I could really fuck her up if I wanted to. And it's not like I would think like I'm about to, it's just my brain would tell me, dude, you know you could. No matter what she's telling you, you know, if you really wanted to, you could put her ass on the ground.
Yes, but every dude don't think like that, and every young dude don't think like that.
Every dude isn't raised like that. Some dudes are raised with, if you want them to respect you, you gotta slap them in the mouth. How you gonna check?
And that's what I wanted to get. That's what I wanted to get into too, because black people in America want to have this have my cake and eat it too mentality. We want to act like in this conversation, we're going to act like we're very conscious and very wise and know stuff. But pimp culture, black people, I don't care if you are 85, I don't care if you conscious, black people love pimp culture. And part of pimp culture is that mentality. And men do teach it to their boys. They do teach it to their boys.
I don't know.
Just because you didn't get taught that don't mean that they don't.
I'm not, but see, now we got to speak because nothing is an absolute. We both.
Well, I'm not saying it's an absolute, but we're talking about as a culture, we do got that. Oh yeah, no, you got to smack a bitch. That's all in the culture. Oh, you got to smack a bitch. You got to put your pimp hand down.
I know that mentality was like that. I don't know if that's the way it's moving now. That's all I'm saying.
Really? It was only
I really
the
don't.
Boondocks wasn't that long ago, and a pimp called Slipback was an absolute fan favorite, and they literally had an episode where he was trying to teach a conscious dude how to smack his wife.
Okay, I get
To
that.
get her to respect them, because women are being educated more, and they're being allegedly, because they're becoming more educated, they're talking back more, or they're expressing their opinions more, as where they're not being as submissive as they were in the
But
past.
that's like saying if your wife is talking, saying something to you, or your significant other saying something to you, or not being submissive, it's time for you to open hand. I'm just saying, to me, that when we was talking about a pimp named Slipback, people, I think more people like that, like the character, because it was funny, not because of what he was doing. Like, I believe that the end of the
But Aaron
day,
Magruder covered that topic because it's real.
Yeah, that is
okay,
based on
we're covering it
icebergs
because
and
it's real.
books.
I don't necessarily think that because it's what we're teaching to the boys. I believe men are, the way I see the world now, the way I've been moving and being able to see the shift on the way things are happening. I don't see it to a point where men are becoming more, I would say, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, submissive women get abused too. So
yeah, I'm not going that far that submissive women get abused all the time. There's plenty of aggressive women. Aggressive women like fights. And
But
they like that. And that's a form of abuse too. But if she's fighting you back, you're both beating on each other. That don't make it no better.
No, that heightens that sexual experience for that couple, right? So they may be like, if I talk back and if I get a man, he's gonna smack me in the mouth, and then there's always that high of the make-up sex,
make up the breakup, right?
But I mean, I don't think it was a sense of just saying that submissive women are getting abused, just like more than I think any woman.
I'm only going. I can only go by the sentence that was on the screen. Submissive women get abused all the time. That's not what I'm co-signing for. I'm saying that whether aggressive women who love to pick fights initiate a lot of abuse, and just because you're both fighting each other don't make it better.
And if you were to prescribe to that notion, then that would say that submissive men are the ones who are being abused. Like these cases are of these submissive men. I think in the Johnny Depp thing, he had learned that behavior because
Sydney, that's more of an appropriate sentence. I would think so too. Groomed women.
Yeah.
What would I mean? So you're being groomed to be abused? I'm just asking, like, are you saying that
so for a female, you can be groomed to be abused. That you can be groomed to be abused. I know a situation personally of someone who was abused by someone, and you could even raped by this person, and this person was in a relationship with this person, and they brought in the police and were like, hey, let's press charges. And because the police were so aggressive, she felt the need that she had to protect that man. And she didn't press charges. So then that goes into why women are staying, or why people who are victims of abuse do stay. And we're not trying to victim blame. We're trying to have a more understanding on why they do or why they don't. And that's probably why people do stay, because at the end of the day, if they love the person or they have this misguided view of love, they are going to try to protect that person.
Yeah, and I left Ashley's comment up because Asian women that don't talk back
don't get abused. I think Ray is not speaking generally. Okay.
Yeah. Asian women, that's a stereotype. Asia is a gigantic continent. I think I know you're trying to talk about Chinese, Japanese, or maybe Korean women. Those are 3 different countries. And I've spent over 3 years in Asia. Asian women don't exactly roll over for abuse. They hit they husbands in the head with frying pans just like anybody else. White women, you're talking about that because that's the stereotype of white women will do anything for black dudes or do anything for their boyfriends. Well, we've seen plenty of situations. A lot of black men have been killed at the mouth of a white woman. Period.
But I mean, we were just speaking. I mean, the only reason I'm curious more because we were just talking about stereotypes a few minutes ago when we was talking about the pimp culture stereotype and all these things that we were saying were being taught. So my thing is, then wouldn't everything be considered a stereotype then?
What do you mean? Is everything considered a stereotype? What does that mean?
Because we were just talking about the stereotypical Korean Asian woman, the stereotypical white woman.
So how many Korean and Asian women do we know that we're going to talk about this stereotype? Because we weren't talking about pimp culture as a stereotype. I was talking about pimp culture as a subversive little negativity that we embrace in our community, which we know is real.
I think, and I would even change the conversation because I think what it is, especially in relationships that have abuse, is there is an imbalance of power.
Yes.
It's no, I don't want to get in semantics with it being submissive women versus aggressive women, submissive men versus aggressive men. I think it is a imbalance of power, and we know that we give people power. People give power. Police, we give them power. So in relationships, different people give that power to the other person. And I think when you start seeing abuse, like was stated before in the comments, that abuse doesn't just happen overnight. It's steadily groomed. Like the person who is the abuser does little things to test that water. He may be verbally abusive first, before
it's just cycles. It's cycles of progression.
Yeah.
Or they'll date you, get you to move in with them, or move you away from your comfort zone or your family or your protective system. They'll move you away, or they'll try to cut you off from your friends. But that's a whole nother mentality that we're talking about there.
So that would be considered more of a controlling mentality.
True, but that controlling mentality can lead to physical abuse. I mean, I think what we're talking about can apply to both genders, especially these days.
Mm-hmm.
Especially these days. Something else that's exasperated it then came out that the same-sex community or the LGBTQ community is rampant with abuse. Statistically speaking, it's rampant with abuse.
Yeah.
But that's my point. I guess my point would be when I never thought that abuse stopped with genders or like I think it's a form of being naive when you're sitting here thinking that, not y'all, but anybody sits here and thinks that abuse doesn't cross. Abuse happens in relationships.
Yes, it's mentality.
I believe that just came on the board and checking in. What's up, Frederick? Yeah, he came in on another show. I remember, dude. Narcissism. But my thing is, I think that abuse happens in relationships in general. It doesn't matter if it's man, woman, woman, man, woman, woman, or man, man. It's going to happen in a relationship in general. So I think we're picking, like, it happens in the LGBTQ, or it happens in white people or black people or mixed races or whatever.
It happens, period.
It happens, period. So my initial thing when I was trying to forget the genders, forget the whatever, the class and whoever. Why is it that the person who's being abused, and we got into certain statements as to why we thought it may be, but my thing is, when I was sitting here asking, what exactly is it that a person don't see in themselves that causes them to say, you know what, I can only imagine a woman sitting there watching her pretty face. If any woman, black, white, Asian, Mexican, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. How can you look at your face and say, I have to go back there? And I'm gonna say one more point before I let y'all chime in on this. Even if we're talking about the Asian woman who's supposedly submissive and all these other things, when you see self-esteem, true, But when that woman sees her face and it's swollen and knotted and bleeding, doesn't something click like this isn't right? That's what I'm asking.
No, I'm gonna take it on there. So what it is when that person is grooming that person into this cycle of abuse, they may start attacking their self-esteem first, because now I want you to have a dysmorphia where when you look in the mirror, what you don't see is beauty.
Agreed.
So they may call them ugly all the time, and then they start psychologically adapting that and saying, okay, well, I'm ugly because no one else wants me but him. And when
they wear them down mentally.
He wears that person down.
Or he or she, like you said, Devon, this could apply to any gender at this point.
Yeah.
So
he or she, we can even
dudes can get worn down mentally as well. Dudes can get, especially when dudes are trying to peacock around other dudes and a woman is cutting them down.
Right. So to simplify it, we talk when we raise children, we are, especially because me and Devon, we're almost in the same age group. We start talking about why we don't tell children they're stupid, because then they start identifying and taking on that moniker, and then they'll start acting in that behavior. Like, or if you call that child bad, oh, he's so bad, that person's gonna adopt that. So if that person is constantly on a daily basis getting told they're not beautiful, they're unattractive, they're unworthy, they'll start believing it. Well, I'm not attractive, I'm not beautiful, I'm unworthy. So then when they look in the mirror, they'll develop a dysmorphia and they won't see the beauty. They'll just see, they won't see beauty. They'll see, well, this is what I deserved, or unfortunately, this is what I deserve. And it's really sad.
Yeah, and Diva has said that it go that women I can't go back to the cover. She said some women don't know their worth, and Chris said it goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
Yeah. Look, that's the one thing we saying, because the only reason I'm speaking on it from a different aspect, because as a man, like me and Bro was saying earlier, it's certain things that I couldn't see myself doing if I was in an abusive relationship. I couldn't say, I'm gonna get to Chris' comment real quick. I couldn't see myself taking that shelter if I was in an abusive relationship, because it's not wrong if I did take it, but it's just something that's built inside of me. And most men who do
but you're looking at the shelter as a stigma. Let me ask you this. Can you get your self-esteem attacked by a woman? Can a woman wear down your confidence? Can a woman make you feel worthless? Can a woman make you dread going home?
Yeah. Before I answer that, I'm gonna read Chris' comment. And it says, in the black community, we always talking about some kids being bad. This is true too. Now, to get back to what you had said, of course, like I said, mental and verbal abuse crosses all genders. That does not stop with a man to a woman, woman to man, or whatever. If a man can wear down another man's mental, a woman could definitely do it, especially if a man has decided that you're his woman. When he's decided to make himself vulnerable to you, when he's decided to let you into that secret room that he keeps buried back that nobody else can tap into, because absolutely that woman has a key that nobody else will hold, and only she knows the deepest, darkest things. And she
exactly.
And I will say that to somebody. I will say it till it crosses both genders. But in Ray's case, what we were saying is she holds that master key, that one door that she knows fucks with you. That if brought out, it kills everything that's in your brain, your self-esteem, your self-worth, your drive, your motivation, all of that. So don't get me wrong, I understand that concept to a T. It's just men tend to not have a choice but to bounce back from it because of those lack of resources that we were talking about earlier.
All men do not bounce back from it. All men do not bounce back from it.
I'm not so real quick, Pep. I'm not saying all men do bounce back from it, but we were designed in order to bounce back from it. And the case being is we don't have them same resources.
I'm going to challenge that, Devon, and say you were taught and learned that behavior. Because you can take the same situation. I kind of know your background. I kind of know Ray's background. You both grew up in homes where there was a father figure present. What if that man didn't grow up in his home? So he grew up in a single woman-led home where the mother was verbally abusive, mentally abusive. That type of man could go into a relationship thinking that that's the way he's supposed to be treated, and he would stay.
You know what? And I would agree with that.
That's learned to that behavior.
I will agree with that because I've known people who grew up in single men don't cry.
That's a toxic statement that we teach in our community.
This is true.
Black community.
This is also true too. But mental abuse can cause a man to react. Case in point, look at what happened with Will Smith on that stage. Mental abuse caused that man to snap. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, what I'm saying is, well, let me say this to Sydney's statement about men don't cry. Men don't cry. Men aren't taught to cry in public. Men cry. They just.
Well, I think that's what she meant, though. That it's supposed to be a stigma that men don't. I don't think she's saying that men don't cry.
No. I know she's not saying that, but I just wanted to clear it up, like to add something to that. Men aren't taught to cry in front of people. Like we would have to experience the most traumatizing pain, and we are taught to just hold it. Like no matter what, hold it, bury it deep, and let that ulcer kick in and take over that tumor. Whatever the case may be.
Or a man will not let you see him be weak in public. That's hard. A man will not let you see him be defeated in front of the world.
Thing, but that's a cultural thing, I think. And to go back to what you were saying, if you know a little bit about Will Smith's background, he states that his father was very abusive to his mother. So maybe because he had this love for his father, he just was like, I'm never going to hit a woman. I saw what that did to my mother. And he just took it because.
Just for balance.
Just for balance.
You said that about Will Smith. We just found out Johnny Depp had a dad who was taking all kind of abuse. And he learned the same thing. He learned to just take it. So he learned to just take it.
You know what's crazy about it on the flip side?
That dude went through some stuff, man, that I can't wrap my head around. I can't wrap my head around it.
They both did some crazy stuff to each other. And if you listen to that, it's just stupid. That's why at a certain point, I just was like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, but, okay. I hear what you're saying. I'm not waking up to feces in my bed. That's just not happening. That's a bridge too far in any book.
No doubt. But the man, look, when you got a toxic couple, let's get to Sydney's comment. That's what I meant, another learned behavior. Okay, I think she's talking about the men don't cry.
The men don't cry. Exactly.
Yeah. Here's the thing. When you have a situation where you have a couple, well, let me say this before I get to Johnny Depp. I know a guy who was raised by a single mother, and he, mother was very verbally abusive and physically abusive, very verbal, very physical, beat the kids, did all type of crazy stuff, made them do all type of crazy stuff, woo-wop the bam, right? This kid is now a man, and as a man, he's very verbally disrespectful to his woman. He don't let a woman put their hands on him, because if a woman puts their hands on him, it's just instant reaction to haul off, not restrain, haul off, full force, put my hands on you.
Now he has unresolved issues of childhood trauma, which
absolutely I agree with that. The thing is, though, when we were talking about how a mother may beat down a kid, I know it's not absolute, because not just for his situation, because again, there's nothing that's 100% with anything.
No doubt.
It's people who get hit enough that they rebel, and there are people who get hit enough that they just become subdued and just say, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. But because he's never resolved those issues, and I think because he's lacking some sense of I guess I don't want to say complete, some sense of acknowledging that I can move past this because it doesn't make me less than a man.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find a way to lash out and prove that I'm a man. If you don't, if the slightest sense of disrespect, I gotta show you how much of a man I am because somebody tried to rip it away from me at a young age.
Right. So I overcompensate and I got a hair trigger.
Exactly. And that's something that is very detrimental. I believe that is more detrimental in our community because the men feel as if everything is a threat to their manhood. The slightest thing is and it's quick to defend their manhood.
That's because we come from an environment that there are threats out there, and you want to be responsive to those threats. Look, again, we don't have the predator that's going to come and invade the house and kill everybody that's going to eat us for food. But there are still threats out there as a man, just by you having a home. The milkman can be a threat to your rule. The mailman, the dude down the street, he's just a friend, can be a threat to your rule. And some dudes know how to navigate those waters. Some dudes be like, yeah, if I catch you with him, I'm going to kill him.
And I think that goes back to something that we kind of talked about earlier about emotional intelligence and the teaching of emotional intelligence. Like, we as a community, because of Tuskegee and because of how the government treats us and because of the learned behavior to take those mental issues to the church versus go to actual professionals to get help to resolve those issues, that's how we start seeing those things come up. But I think Devon will say, well, I can see some of those things decreasing, and that's because now we have access to mental health. Now Black people are going to therapy versus just going to the church or to the pastor. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people who believe in religion and want to take it there. I think we have more resources on making sure emotionally that we are learning more emotional intelligence, which we didn't before.
I think that's a sweet way that you put it, and I'm going to mess it up because I'm going to say that I think that you taking your problems to the pastor ain't necessarily the way to go, that you should go to an actual balanced professional. The church has too much of a history of them getting in their own way and seeing their own point of view to the point that they cannot be open-minded enough to help people in need the way that they sometimes need to be helped.
I want to read those comments that we had come through because we kind of breezed it past. Chris said something like, sounds like his mother was trying to be a father as well and ruined the kid. I could believe that is that to be true. And Sydney says because therapy wasn't a thing back in the day. I think it was a thing.
It was a very strong stigma about going to see a shrink. There was a stigma in America, period, about going to see a shrink, but it was a real high stigma in the Black community.
Yeah, I mean, because we always, and let's read Frederick's comment real quick. Therapy is a good thing, but most Blacks are slow in this department, and pastors are not the best ones to counsel with. I definitely
thank you, sir. I thank you.
And Sydney said for Black people, and that's what I was about to say. Black people used to make jokes about white people because they were the ones who were going to.
Yes.
So the thing is, now I love the way the new generation that's coming up, I guess from this way on out, because they're doing things like Pep said, they're going to therapy, they're out in family predators, they're telling grandma and grandpa that they're having and establishing what people call as you just respecting my you supposed to respect me. No, they're saying they're developing healthy boundaries to where it's like you're not going to just openly, blatantly disrespect me, call me stupid, call me fat, nothing like this, because I'm not going to accept that because I know what that will do. At a certain point in time, like I said, kids who were starting to do this, parents instantly started taking it as disrespect when it wasn't the case. It was just the kids saying, they didn't know how to tell you what you're telling me is messing with my mental. When you're doing this, it's fucking with my mental. And because of this, I don't know a way of telling you this without appearing disrespectful.
Mm.
So,
And in the black community, authority figures do not like to be questioned in the black community. I don't care if it's your principal, if it's your teacher, your parents, they don't always like to be questioned.
Sydney says my boys are in therapy just because they're being raised by a single mother. And that's good that you're doing that for them. And the thing about like you were saying, bro, about
well, we're
about
not
kids
blaming statement all pastors, but
I disagree about the pastors are not the best to talk to. Some therapists as well.
Agreed. And I didn't mean to make it a blanket statement, but I will say this. Some of them, and I don't know her pastor, and I'm not casting the dispersion upon that pastor, but there are some pastors who have degrees in psychology and they put their religion first. There are pastors who are marriage counselors, and they give horrible advice because it's grounded in church and not therapy.
And that's what I was about to say. Like, again, you have people who, this is Chris says we all need a good mental therapist in our life. I agree with that as well, Chris. Here's the thing: you have people who just don't like certain situations. Like I'm all for spirituality. I'm all for religion for those. I'm all for everything that works for those people. But there are certain situations where you have to apply logic before you apply a spiritual or religious aspect to it. Or you
have to apply the modern world into the dynamic and not what the Bible say the world or the Quran or the Ava Gita. Let me get that straight. Or the Torah. Before you apply these ancient books into how the world is supposed to be according to the book, you're not looking at what's going on the ground in the modern world right now.
And I'm not saying, like bro was saying, we're not saying that all pastors are not, like bro said, there are pastors who actually look. Some people can call us therapists. Some people called Kevin Samuels a therapist. He wasn't an actual therapist.
And we ain't
some people call him that. Here's the thing: I've been told by me sitting here listening and giving my advice on things that people will say, "Yo, you're my therapist because I can give you give me some solid advice with certain things." Chris says we all need to. Oh, he said that already.
He said that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But so historically, you would see that. So you would see people going to their bartender or going
a bartender was considered a good person to bend an ear to. Yes.
Yeah, or the barber. Yeah, your nail tech if you get your nail done because you start
the hairstylist. Yep.
The thing is, we also, we didn't know we was having therapy sessions when we were just having conversations with those people. Because when women were going to the barbershop and girl, let me tell you what Kevin did that made me so pissed off and this, that, and the third. You didn't know. Literally, you were having a therapy session,
group therapy,
right. But the thing about group therapy with people who are not objective, if you got a bunch of women that just are going to sit there, and this is not to anybody, this goes back to the statement about religious pastors being therapists. If you got a bunch of people there that are not going to be open-minded about what's going on and tell you this is wrong, this is right, then it's not really therapy. It's a vetting session to where people are just going to sit there and back what you're saying. Exactly. That's why if we go back to a couple shows we had ago, well, I was like, yo, I keep bro by me because I know bro at the end of the day will tell me, yo, you fucking up. I'm not saying necessarily this is what I would do, but I'm telling you, you fucking up. He knows. I would tell him, hey, bro, you fucking up. You making the wrong move. But it's not, and the thing is, it's not taking personal. It's because I know that someone else has my best interest at heart.
Exactly. I'm going to cut you off. Yeah. Because this is what true friendship is. Because this is my friend. There's been times he has told me something. Hey man, you fucking up. Or he'll tell me something. I'm mad as hell about what he's saying. I'm mad. Because I really don't want to hear it. But it doesn't get in the way. It doesn't stop him from saying it. And it never gets into, hey man, you say another word, I swear to God, we finna throw hands. Because I value his opinion and he values mine. He gonna put it out there. I'm gonna chew on it. I'm gonna eat the fish, spit out the bones, and move on from there. Period. He's gonna do the same because I know I've told him stuff that I know he did not want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I knew was uncomfortable for him to hear.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way of like a couple comments. I know Chris just made one at the end, but Ashley says you can't tell everybody your business. Therapists have to hold secrets by law. This is true, but here's the thing: not everybody's meant to know everything that goes on in your life. There are certain people, like it's certain stuff I would tell Ray or my brother Josh that I know that I can tell them and there's not a problem.
Because that's your support system that you build.
And I know that those are the two people, or my dad. Those are the three people I know. If I told them something and they think I'm fucking up, they'll pull me aside and say, "Bro, you fucking up," and they'll just let it be because they don't care. They're one of the few people that don't care if it hurts my feelings, if they know it, but because I know at the end of the day they have my best interest at heart and they don't want to see me fall. Now, there are people who just want to know your business so they can run and tell it to somebody else. That's
to help you fall.
That's a different dynamic.
Unfortunately, I think with people who suffer from abuse or being victims of abuse, they've been so isolated that they don't see that
you done messed up the circle, man.
Right.
And
now,
your mom.
I tell my mom, I tell you stuff, but I tell you stuff that I'm okay with if it got out. That's the stuff you get.
There's some things you cannot tell there's some things you cannot tell your mom. There's just some things you can't tell your mom.
And then it's stuff I've done that I couldn't tell her.
Hey man, I was eating the groceries the other day, and you can't tell your mom that.
Yeah. She grabbed my neck and forced me in there.
What it is when you build up that support system, at the end of the day, those people genuinely love you and they genuinely want what's best for you. And unfortunately, people who are victims of abuse, they start being so isolated that they don't feel like they have that or they take that on themselves. It's been times that I've wanted to tell Ray things and I wouldn't because I'd be like, well, I don't know if I should tell him that.
Because you know what his reaction is going to be.
And not even his reaction. At the end of the day, I had to have a switch in my mind and say, you know what? Bro loved me. That's my bro. He loved me. And at the end of the day, he wants what's best for me. He may not agree with it, but he's always going to make sure that I'm supported and I'm happy and I'm healthy. Even if he got to come get me at 2:30 in the morning to remove me from a situation.
Right. And Ashley just made a comment,
but just saying.
Ashley made a comment when she said someone going through domestic violence will naturally have trust issues. They won't open up to most people, even family. This is true. This is true
because they think they're not judged.
Judge say you fucking over. Here's the thing: the trust issues with the family can come in from multiple reasons too, not just from domestic violence. I think that because you got people who will get sexually assaulted that won't tell nobody because they're like, if I put that out, everybody, I don't know if they're going to blame me and say it's my fault for it happening, or if it's or even if I tell them and then they end up messing up the family, fucking up the family member, then I'm gonna feel guilty because maybe I shouldn't have said something. So I can understand that dynamic all the way through. So I do get what she's saying. The problem comes with me with certain things like that, and I know we over, but the problem with me comes with things like you got to look at it and say, let's just talk for a second. In this case, we're talking about the sexual abuse. In that case, you may need to do it to stop it from happening to somebody else. Because if it's with you, it didn't start with you, and it's not going to end with you. That means that when you are at a point where you have to go and appreciate that, Chris said he got your back.
Dang,
but if you gotta go,
I'm just chopped liver out here.
If you gotta go to a point where it's where you know that you're at a point where you've graduated. Well, I don't want to say graduate, but you're at a point where you can actually physically stop it from happening. You know that there are people that's coming up under you that may be a victim of the same thing you experienced at that certain age. So sometimes I know it's tough for some people to do it. Or let me say this: can only assume how tough it can be for some people that may have to experience things like that. But I would say, sometimes you have to just say, "Yo, this shit is fucked up," and before I let you do this to my great niece or my second cousin removed, I'm going to tell somebody or have something done to where it won't happen to nobody else. It stops with me.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's hard. So, Pep, I know you know of some organizations that people can go to if they're having problems with abuse or need shelter or any type of help.
Yeah, there are several programs. If you're in the Chicagoland area, there are several programs. I think Devon put a number out there. I think 2 shows ago we put out the Black Health Network. That's a organization where you can go and find therapists in any area. I know in the Chicago area, if you also have substance abuse issues, you can go to Haymarket Center. You can go to Deborah's Place if you're a woman. And I do have a community liaison that's a police that I'll get a list of those places, and we can put that up in the chat or the
put it in the chat even after the show. Go back and put it inside of the chat.
And if you feel like DMing me, Devon, or Ray because you just want to get help for somebody, please feel free to. Whatever you say to us and the DM is kept confidential. We just want to make sure everybody is happy, healthy, and mentally in a good space.
In fact, when we started the show, I'm sorry, we should have put that out earlier. Our hearts and our prayers go out to all of the people out there in Buffalo. We've got listeners out there in Buffalo that I had to do a self-check on to make sure that they were okay after the heinous massacre that happened out there. So our hearts and our prayers do go out to the people of Buffalo. Whoa.
Domestic violence. No, let me stop. That wouldn't.
There it is.
It's my own violence.
I will say that we are going to touch on that topic. I just felt that it was a little too soon to do. We're not a news organization, so we don't have to break our necks to be first. But when the Truf Brothers do something, we want to make sure that we're correct and accurate when we do speak on something. So we will be touching on this topic and rather soon. But it's fascinating that the story is changing so fast and not for the better. So when we do talk on it, we want to make sure that we got a lot of the information at hand so that when we do talk to you guys that we're giving you stuff that's accurate and correct and not just hearsay and rumor.
Yeah. I ended up real quick. That's what she said. Stop that. No.
Fury and me are in a very abusive relationship.
What I did was I pinned the phone number for the domestic abuse line. I put 708. I'm sorry. I got to put the right one in there. I'm sorry. It was 800. But I'm pinning the number for the domestic abuse line. Also, you can text START to 88788. Just START, START. That's another, for confidential purposes only for anybody that wants to, text or do anything for domestic violence if they need help with shelter and things like that. And like Pep said, just everybody take care. And we need to get some organization. We're going to start posting for mental health, for therapy, for things like that. That anybody that wants to take advantage of, please do that because it's very important. I can't stress mental health enough for our community.
Yeah,
for sure.
If you're on the west side,
there's the number right there. That's not Devon's phone number, so don't call it asking to talk to Devon.
Please don't.
I think you can go to Lawndale Christian Health Network if you're on the west side, and they do free therapy where it's not at cost to you. I tell people all the time, if you have a good EAP program, please feel free to look out to your EAP program because the things that you share with that person, they're not sharing that with your employer. I think the they've gone away from that. So if you have something confidentiality that you need, they will connect you with counselors. They do emergency housing. They even do financial fitness. You have resources, just use them.
There you go.
Sounds good to me.
All right, and thank you, Pep, for coming in and helping us
Absolutely.
out. You know, it's a blessing every time you come in and give us your wisdom, because we be needing that.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Someone said City says I am able is on the west side as well. So
Mhm.
again, real quick, bro. Thank you to everybody, man, that's been tuning in and rocking with us. Me and bro got something big. We plan to show our appreciation for everybody who's tuned in and rock with the Truf Brothers for so long. But you got to be in the Chicago, Illinois area for what we got planned for y'all. Hopefully we get this thing up and running, because like we were saying, we got some big things happening for us, all because of y'all, and y'all sitting there and rocking with us so tough, and we really, 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 really appreciate it. This show went on really. This show today was very well. Hopefully the person who needed to watch this did watch this show and understand how dynamic the Truf Brothers and even Pep is. Again, though, thank you everybody for tuning in and staying here with us. I know we gave y'all a lot of information and a lot to think about all at the same time.
For sure. And tune again next week, when we're going to be having another great episode for you guys. I think we're going to get into rights, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm talking to a couple of people in the internet world, and I'm trying to get them on as guests. And hopefully, if I can secure them, we're gonna be going off into something very different and very special. So I'm just trying to lock the last of those guests down. So again, we out here doing that work for you guys, because we care. So as you know, that if you're not watching the Truf Brothers,
then the truth ain't in you.
Live long and prosper, people.
2 fingers. Take care of yourself.
All right.